Welcome to episode 29 of today's Candor. I'm your host, Barika. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to tune in. Happy holidays. And I want to thank everyone for their patience and condolences. I know that my normal release schedule, it just has not been the same. I've not been releasing every Tuesday. I've not been doing my reels. My granddaddy passed on December 9th. And so I have been processing that as best I can, adjusting to that as best I can, because him and I were very close. We were very close. And so I appreciate everyone's support and condolences. Today's topic in this episode, I am discussing when things are not working out, it is the universe trying to save your ass. Yes. When things are not working out, the universe is trying to save your ass. And that's anything. That's relationships, friendships, a job environment, any other type of toxicity that you may be experiencing. When they are not working out, you need to go. You need to move on, figure it out, do something. But you got to get up out of there. And I'm speaking from experience. So by no means am I over here like, oh, hey, just go ahead. The minute that you think something's not for you, go ahead and just walk out. It's most definitely easier said than done. And the way that I explain it sometimes when I'm talking to people about this, or just maybe trying to give some advice, maybe trying to help people just from past experiences of my own, I tell people there are times where we know something. And like I said, this can be anything. This is intimate relationships, your relationships with your family members, your friendships, job environment that you know you shouldn't be there and you keep trying to press the issue, anything where you know you don't belong. So this applies to any of that. And so I've told people sometimes what we do just is human nature. We know something. We know we're somewhere where we don't belong, and we still try to press and press and press and force the issue. And we end up hurt and in pain, and we're crying and we're questioning things, and we're trying to do all this understanding that's, out of our league, instead of handing it over and letting the universe do its thing. And sometimes what we do as humans, we know something is not for us, or we don't belong in that particular situation, environment, etc. We know this, but we haven't accepted it. And it's two different things. Those are two total different things. We know stuff. We know something as humans. And some people, they act like they don't know it, but we're not talking about the oblivious ones. Sometimes what we do, we see it right in front of us. We're like, we know this is not for us. We know this is not working. We know this is unhealthy. We know it's bothering my mental or taking a toll on my physical, whatever the case. We know it. And we still try to sit in it, stay in it, work it out, flip it and twist it. No, you need to move. You need to figure something out, move on from it, tweak it, whatever is going to best fit that situation, but you need to make a decision. And like I said, I know it's easier said than done, but it's like when you keep getting your tail kicked, it's the universe saying, you haven't learned this lesson yet. And until you learn it, I'm going to keep on kicking your tail. And we sit up thinking that we're doing the right thing because we're working with what we have. See, when we make decisions, we're going off of what we have in front of us, whatever resources, whatever is in our mental Rolodex. We're working off of course, maybe taking lessons from past experiences, maybe taking lessons from what we've seen other people deal with. We're working with what we have when we try to make decisions. And of course, we try to make the right decision, or to our best of our ability. That's what we try to do. And once again, we ain't talking about the oblivious ones or people who just, they can't even figure out their own thought process. We're talking about people who, they know for sure, they're like, this is the right decision for me to make. And we can't know everything. We can't know everything, because in that case, we would never have to sit down and tell a story and be like, oh, well, in hindsight, I would have done that differently, or I wouldn't have done that at all. So when we make decisions, we are making it based off of what we have. Lessons, experience, all the things, resources. That's what we're going off of. Maybe some advice is thrown in there from somebody who we trust. Whatever the case may be, we have to understand that when you continuously are going through pain, or it's almost like there's some type of friction or tension, it's something about that particular environment or that situation you don't belong in. And you need to figure it out. You need to figure out what's best for you, because nobody else can do that for you. And while it might be painful and disappointing and hurtful, write it down. Why am I staying here? Why am I not going to stay here? What is, you know, what is advantageous about staying here? What is disadvantageous? If you don't take the time to process it, you're going to make these wild decisions that may be regretful. So sit down and do some thinking. Write it down, put it down and say, you know what are the pros and cons of staying in this situation or this environment or with this person? Write it down so that it can make sense. Say the stuff out loud so that it can either make sense or knock you upside your head and say, you know what, this doesn't quite make sense. It sounds really crazy when I say it out loud or see it written down. When you try to keep it all up in there in your mind, you don't get to see it right in front of you. You don't get to hear it. So it's always helpful to have it right in front of you and saying it out loud and talk through it to yourself. Sometimes it's not always about going to somebody and getting their feedback. And that's the problem too. Sometimes we think we need to always go to somebody to get an answer. We got the answer sitting right within us. There's nothing wrong with feedback and advice and a second opinion. By no means is there anything wrong with that. But sometimes we don't take the time to just sit down and say, you know what? I have everything I need within me. I need to sit down and think this through. I need to talk it through with myself. Everybody don't need to be in your business. Everybody doesn't need to know what you're going through. This is not the time for the woe is me and the pity parties. Sit down and say, I keep getting my tail kicked because I keep going against the universe. That's right. You keep getting your tail kicked because you keep on trying to press and force the issue. If there's somebody you're not supposed to be with, and you're not getting what you need or desire out of that relationship, the universe is trying to tell you, hey, ding dong, you don't belong with that person, especially when you've tried to work it out and work through different things multiple times, communicating, working through it, all the things. Let it go. Let it go. Because when you deliberately and intentionally hold on to something or someone that is not for you, not meant for you, it's going to cause some type of disappointment. And of course, in the beginning, when these things start to happen, you're going to work through it and work it out. That's what you're supposed to do, because that should be a given in a relationship. You're going to work through things, especially if it's something that comes up that you all haven't had to work through before. But if you notice that it is on a consistent basis, that it's like y'all are never on the same accord, never on the same page, yeah, it's a serious wake-up call. Or if you feel like you're in a job environment where it's like there's always something, or you feel like, are these people trying to test me? Are these people trying to get me up out of here? Of course, never let anyone push you out from somewhere that you feel you belong, but you're going to know the difference. You're going to know the difference. Like, you know what? This is just a part of life. We go through stuff. Going through stuff is always going to be a part of life. That's inevitable. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how good you got it. It don't matter what the resources you have and who you know. You're going to always go through something until you gone off this earth. That is life. You're going to always have obstacles, and you got to learn to work through them. But we have to understand as humans that we are not in control of everything. We are not. We need to control what we can control, and we need to let the universe do the job. The rest of it. But the universe can't do its job if we're sitting up here trying to stay somewhere where the universe is telling us, no, that's not it. You got to get up out of there. Because I promise you, you'd rather deal with that short-term hurt and disappointment than dealing with it long-term, because maybe something came of it that you can't undo, right? And so you have people walking around who have children by, or a child by someone where they're just like, I should have never had a child by this person for whatever the reasons are. But you sat up and you sat in it anyway. And the universe said, well, okay, you want to keep sitting in it? There you go. And now you're stuck. Yeah, I'm good on that. And when you're trying to continuously force and force and force, You feel it. It's almost like something's tugging. It's literally like you're playing tug of war with the universe. It's tugging and tugging. And you're like, why do I always feel like I'm getting like yanked on? Because it's the universe trying to tell you, wake up and wake up fast. Stop forcing relationships with people. Like I said, whether it's intimate, whether it's your friendships, whether it's with family members, stop. For what? Any type of relationship is supposed to be a vibe. They're supposed to be vibes. It's supposed to be vibes. And I tell people, you should be able, if you aren't around somebody for whether it's a few months, a year, a few years, a decade, and y'all see each other, it should be able to just pop right back into place like y'all never fell off. And let me tell you something. Before I had to go to my granddaddy's funeral, I made sure that I just wanted to make sure everything was good on my car. It was running just fine, but I was like, you know what? Let's make sure, let's get an oil change. Let's get everything checked before I get on the road. No foolery. Already dealing with enough. Already grieving, right? Already missing my granddaddy. And I saw somebody when I went to go, I was getting my oil change. I saw somebody who I hadn't seen for 10 years. We've known each other since we were 13 years old. And soon as I saw this person, it was like I saw them a couple days ago. Like it was never a long time. But that's how we've always been. It's always been a vibe. Always been a vibe. And it don't have to be forced. It does not have to be forced. If you are like that with somebody, it's going to mesh. It doesn't matter if you speak to somebody, that person every day, or speak to them every few months, few years. If y'all are like that, it's literally just going to pop right back into place. But if there's somebody who literally every time you talk to them, you feel like you, once again, you playing tug of war, somebody don't belong somewhere. And it needs to be, maybe it just needs to be a hey, hi, hello sometimes. Maybe it needs to be a happy birthday, or if somebody's a mom or dad, happy Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever, holidays. But I'm not forcing anything. I always say I'm not forcing nobody to be around me. I'm not forcing any connections. I ain't begging nobody to be in my company. You should not have to force connections. And that's with anybody, any type of relationship. You also shouldn't be uncomfortable in any environments. I'm not saying that everything is going to be peachy and everything is just flowing your way. It's life. You have to adjust. You have to be able to adapt. But adapting and feeling like, man, this is not it. Those are two different feelings. And you got to learn to trust your gut. You have to go with your gut. Because the minute you go against it, it's going to bite you right in your tail. That same tail that the universe keeps handing to you when you don't pay attention. And what people don't get, those things, they're so interconnected. The universe and your gut trying to either just send you a sign or wake you up and tell you, hey, like you gotta make a move. And people always talking about they looking for a sign, and it'd be right in front of their eyeballs. Couldn't be any bigger, couldn't be any more blatant. People are always saying, oh, send me a sign and send me this and send me that because I don't know what to do. Yeah, you know what to do. You don't want to do it. And not wanting to do something, and it's that sign you're looking for is sitting right in front of you, not wanting to do it because you're worried about how it's going to feel in the interim. Instead of saying, you know what's the long-term consequences going to come from this? Am I going to feel better? Am I going to, will I feel relieved? Will some stress come off me? Something. Will I sleep better at night? Will I be able to process my thoughts clearly or clearer? You have to ask yourself, are you willing to deal with a short-term and interim pain or interim discomfort instead of sitting in something where you know you don't belong and it becomes a long-term discomfort? I know I'd much rather do the interim. Oh, yes. I'd much rather do the interim. There is no need to sit somewhere where you don't belong. There are other spaces, places, and people that would much more enjoy you and that you would much more enjoy, rather than trying to figure everything out and twist it and yank it and bop it. You don't have to do all of that to get what you want. That's different from life's obstacles. You need to be able to say, you know what? I know what I desire. I know what I need in order to thrive, in order to flourish. And when you know those things, you're very clear on what it is and who it is that you need in order to flourish. When you don't know, you let anybody and everybody into your world, into your energy, into your space. And when you do that, when you let anybody and everything in, it's contaminated. It's toxic. It becomes tainted. And now you're trying to figure out how to get rid of all this foolishness that you've let in because you thought it was cool. Now you literally have to do a mental and spiritual detox from the stupidity, whether that's things, people, or a combination thereof. Be okay with short-term pain so that your long-term can be, what you want it to be. You can't thrive when you're stressed. You can't thrive when you're always trying to figure out, am I supposed to be here? First off, if you even start asking yourself that question, it's probably because you don't. If you have to sit in a relationship or a place or space with a person and talk about do I belong here? Why do I feel this way? Am I even supposed to be here? You answered your question when you asked the question. When that thought popped in your head about should you be somewhere, there you go. 9 times out of 10. Yes, sometimes you have some scenarios or situations that become more intricate and you got to really go through it. But 9 times out of 10, if you have to ask yourself, do I belong here? Do I belong with this person? Like, is this and that? Especially if you've worked through it more than once, you already have your answer. Stop going against the universe. The universe will keep handing you your tail. When things are not working out, the universe is trying to save your butt. Stop it. Stop going against the universe, because it's going to show you every time you are not in control of that. I'm trying to show you something. I'm trying to help you. And sometimes it's trying to save you from you, because sometimes that happens with us. We need to be saved from ourselves when we start making those wild, crazy decisions to sit put in something that is not serving us any purpose. We choose to just stay there. What you staying there for? When you're frustrated and you're stressed and your blood pressure up and you're looking crazy, you look like what you going through. Make a decision. And like I said, I can talk this because I've been through it. I've experienced it, and it sucks. And it drags you, and you looking like, who am I? Who the hell? And when you are so kind and so sweet and so genuine and giving and loving and healing and all these things, you start to, the people that I just described, the universe has to sometimes show us a little bit more like, hey, I'm trying to get you up out of there, but you're not listening to me. You're trying to do your own thing. And I promise you, having to do a spiritual and an emotional and a mental detox, it is not overnight. It is not in a week. It's not in 2 weeks. And sometimes it's not in a couple months, depending on what you've been through. Sometimes it's going to take even longer than that. Start listening to the universe. Start trusting your gut. Start working on that. Because it's a big deal, and it's going to save you from a lot of crap. It's going to prevent a lot of crap. When you learn to say, you know what? Ding, ding, ding. That's my sign right there. Me feeling this way when I'm around a person. Me feeling this way when I'm at my job. Me feeling this way with this particular family member. They say pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention when you are feeling your best. Pay attention to who you're around. And when you're not feeling so good, pay attention to who you're around so that you can understand and take note of, you know what, when I felt my best, I was around person A and B. And when I didn't feel my best, I was around person C and D. Make note. Make a mental note. Because if you don't protect your mental, your heart, your emotions, nobody else will. And people will do whatever they think they need to do, want to do, so that they can get what they need, what they desire, what's fitting them, what's suiting them. You need to become tight with the universe. You need to become close with it. Trust it. Listen to it. Pay attention to it. So you don't have to do too many of these spiritual detoxes. I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that someone was able to understand Like, hey, the sign is this, the sign or the signs have been right in front of me. Stop blocking it. Stop going against it. Literally, you need to listen and look. Listen and look. And listen more than you talk is always very important. And the overthinking. Yes, I get it because I can be an overthinker. But sometimes you have to understand what's right in front of you. That sign that's right in front of you, go with it. Please go with it. So you don't have to try to figure it out 20 times. And then that 21st time is like, oh, this is what the universe was saying. And here I go. My silly tail been up here going against it, trying to control everything. Look and listen. So that's all for this episode. Of course, as always, I appreciate everyone's support. Please continue to follow, like, and share. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay candid.